Hello viewers, today I'm going to present you a short video on one of the most greatest polymath of all time, Sir Isaac Newton. And this is a little assignment for my course, Computational Mechanics 2. And today I'm your presenter, Muhammad Abir Hussain. So my today's presentation, my today's talk will go along this path. The Sir Isaac Newton's birth, his early life, his educational credential, and his contribution to the realm of science. Sir Isaac Newton was born on January the 4th in 1643 at Worcester by Colsterworth, a small county by Lincolnshire in England. He was a premature baby, and the doctor who delivered him thought that he would not survive his first week. And I just imagine what a loss it would be for the science as a whole if he didn't survive. Sir Isaac Newton's father, his name was also Isaac Newton Sr. He was a farmer and died 3 months before the Newton's birth. And his mother, Hannah Isco, his mother remarried when young Isaac was 3 years old. So he had three half siblings, and uh, Sir Isaac Newton's early brought up was under the care of his grandparents, and his relationship was not so good with his stepfather and with his half siblings. So Sir Isaac Newton's early schooling started at the age of 12, and he attended at King's School at Grantham, where he was an adequate student. So at the age of 17, his stepfather died, and his mother wanted him to take him out of the school and to become a farmer. But Isaac Newton had a knack for studies and had a curious mind, so he showed little interest in farming, and soon he got back to school. He enrolled himself as a soldier in the Trinity College at Cambridge in 1661. For his educational expenses, he used to work outside the study hours. He used to serve meals or running around for the professors at the school. The education Newton was receiving at the Trinity was hugely based on the work of Aristotle and other former philosophers. Later, he came up with a list of 45 topics to study them, which later became general headings of physics. In his early career, Isaac Newton spent much of his life at the Cambridge and became a professor at mathematics and a fellow of the Royal Society. Later, he was elected to represent Cambridge University as a member of the Parliament. He wanted to spend much of his time at Cambridge, but a great plague spread all across the Europe, which forced him to leave Cambridge between the years 1665 to 1667. He spent those 2 years in study in isolation back at his home in Ostrov, developing his theories on calculus, gravity, and laws of motion. In 1969, he published his first work, which was called Analysis by Infinite Series. His professional career kicked on in 1696 when Newton became the warden of the Royal Mint in London, and he took care of the Royal Mint at its lowest point. He got rid of the corruption in the system and also had a great contribution to recoinage of the currency of England. He was elected the president of the Royal Society in 1703 and knighted by the Queen Anne in 1705. So the greatest of all thought that came out of Sir Isaac Newton's mind, the gravity. He was sitting in his garden when an apple falls on his head, and a stroke of brilliant insights, he came up with the theories of gravity. So in his study in isolation, he tried to devise three important answer of his questions. Why do things always fall down? Question number two was, why doesn't the moon fall to the earth? And question number three was, why do planets always stay on the orbit? So Newton doesn't always pose questions. He also used to devise experiments to come up with reasonable answers to his questions. So he believed the mathematics will lead to the answer of this question and develop fluxions, which is known as the modern day calculus these days. The greatest publication, Newton's greatest work, was published in the year of 1687, the Philosophia Naturalis Principia Mathematica. So in his work, he described the laws of motion as well as the law of universal gravity. And this publication has gone down in the history as one of the most important works for the realm of science. In his Principia, his theory about the gravity helped to explain the movements of the planets and the sun, and this theory known as the Newton's law of universal gravitation. Newton's law of motion were fundamental laws of physics that laid down the foundation for classical mechanics. His another invention in 1668 was the reflecting telescope, and this kind of telescope uses mirrors to reflect light and form an image. And based on his work, most of the major telescopes used in astronomy today are the reflecting telescopes. And finally, at March 31, 1727, Newton died in London, in England, at the age of 84. And these are some of the references based on the greatest mind, Sir Isaac Newton, which mostly stored in the library of the Cambridge. So in the memory of greatest Sir Isaac Newton, to every action there is always opposed equal reaction.